What would you do if a stranger offered to pay double for your horse, but only if you came with it? Today's heartwarming Old West story takes us back to 1884 Montana, where one unexpected offer changes a lonely cowboy's life forever. Was she joking? Or did she have a reason for making such an unusual request? Stay with us until the very end to discover a touching story of kindness, courage, and true love on the American frontier. If you enjoy classic Western stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable tales. Now, let's get started. Montana Territory, 1884. Autumn had painted the hills gold, and the morning air carried the smell of pine, fresh hay, and wood smoke. Every year, ranchers from miles around gathered at the county livestock market to buy horses, trade cattle, and catch up with neighbors they hadn't seen since spring. I had ridden into town before sunrise with one horse tied behind my wagon, a gentle chestnut mare named Daisy. She wasn't young anymore, but she had carried me through snowstorms, long cattle drives, and lonely nights on the prairie without ever failing me. Now that my ranch had grown, I needed a younger horse for the demanding work ahead. Selling Daisy wasn't easy, but I hoped someone would give her the peaceful home she deserved. I hung a simple wooden sign around her neck that read, $50, and quietly waited. Most buyers walked past without stopping. Some glanced at her gray hairs and shook their heads before moving on to younger, stronger horses. A few even laughed, saying $50 was too much for an old mare. Their words stung, but I refused to lower the price. Daisy wasn't just another horse to me. She had earned every dollar through years of loyalty. As the afternoon sun climbed higher, I began wondering if I would simply ride her back home. Then a stagecoach rolled into town, sending dust across the marketplace. From it stepped a young woman dressed in a modest blue dress and a straw hat. She carried a worn leather bag and looked more like a schoolteacher than someone shopping for livestock. Instead of rushing past, she walked directly to Daisy, gently stroked her neck, and smiled as though she had found an old friend. She asked about the mare, and I told her everything. How Daisy had crossed rivers, climbed mountain trails, and never once thrown a rider. The young woman listened carefully, without interrupting. When I finished, she looked into my eyes and asked, "Is the price truly only $50? I nodded. "Yes, ma'am. $50, and she'll be yours." A gentle smile spread across her face as she reached into her bag. Then, in a calm voice that made the busy marketplace suddenly feel silent, she said, "I'll pay double, if the cowboy comes with her." I stood speechless, convinced I had either misheard her or that this remarkable stranger had just changed the course of my life forever. I stared at the young woman for a long moment, certain I had misunderstood her. A few ranchers nearby chuckled quietly, expecting me to blush or laugh the remark away. Instead, the woman offered a polite smile and introduced herself as Clara Whitmore. She explained that she had recently inherited a small homestead just outside Helena after her uncle's passing. The farm had been neglected for years, and although she was determined to make an honest living, she knew almost nothing about ranching. "I don't truly need another horse," she admitted. "I need someone willing to teach me how to build a life out there." Her words carried sincerity, not flirtation, and the laughter around us quickly faded. I shook my head with a smile and gently pushed the extra money back into her hand. "The mare costs $50, I said. "No more, no less. Daisy has earned an honest price, and I don't charge folks for kindness." Clara looked surprised before smiling warmly. She accepted the horse for the original price, but before leaving, she asked whether I might visit her ranch from time to time in exchange for fair wages. After thinking it over, I agreed. A neighbor should help another neighbor, especially on the frontier where everyone depended on one another to survive. Over the following weeks, I rode out to Clara's homestead nearly every morning. Together, we repaired broken fences, cleared overgrown fields, fixed the leaking roof of the old barn, and cared for Daisy, who seemed happier than she had been in years. Clara worked harder than anyone expected. She never complained about blistered hands or long days beneath the Montana sun. Instead, she laughed through every challenge and thanked me for every lesson. Before long, the lonely ranch began showing signs of life again. Crops started growing, cattle returned to the pasture, and neighbors stopped by to lend a hand, inspired by Clara's determination. When spring arrived, the little homestead had become one of the most beautiful farms in the valley. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, Clara handed me the same extra $50 I had refused months earlier. I smiled and closed her hand around the money. "I told you then, and I'll tell you now," I said. "Kindness isn't something I sell." She laughed, slipped the money back into her pocket, and reached for my hand instead. "Then let me give you something better," she whispered. A few months later, beneath the wide Montana sky and surrounded by friends and neighbors, we were married. Looking at Daisy grazing peacefully nearby, Clara smiled and said, "I came to buy a horse that day, but I left with the man who made the West feel like home."